Hello everyone, welcome to the Throne and Liberty settings guide. We're going to go over everything that's going to help you get the best graphic settings, the best quality of life changes that can be made, and just overall help the game run more smoother for yourself, obviously with high end and low end options as well. So start off, go into your settings. You can open this just by clicking O, which is the default key, and it'll bring your settings straight up. And we're just going to do this left to right, left down, and just go through them all as quick as I possibly can. I'm not going to bore you with the details of everything, so we're just going to get straight into it. Self-control mode, personally, just leave this as classic. It's entirely personal preference. Prevent falling is a good one, actually. I don't know why I had that turned off. Left click to move, unless you really want to click to move, like you're playing League of Legends. I personally just leave this off. Auto move to interaction target. These are entirely personal preference. To attack and interact, basically just whenever you click something, it will auto move you closer. It's good to have while you get used to the game. Maybe turn them off in the future. This one is only show my animations, which is show skill effect. Personally, especially in large scale PvPs, you don't want your PC running loads of resources just to try and show everyone's animations. I personally just have it to only show my animations, which is fine and which is good enough for me. Turn all these off except auto move to attack target. Again, personal preference, doesn't change the performance of the game. Aim direction, again we leave this on. All these we turn off. Display cast bar, personally leave that on. Wind indicator is really important if you're a bow user. If not, turn it off. I'm not, but I've had it on because I've been testing some things with bow on this beta. Only show debuffs caused by me, just leave that on, and display your damage numbers, obviously you want that on. Show character name, so change this to user settings, and for hostile guild characters and stuff you want to put these all on because you want to be able to see their name and their health bar when you're fighting them in PvP. Friendly player characters, I personally just turn the name and health bars off, don't really need to see them. Again, same with missed characters. NPCs, I put the name on, but then health I turn off. And then the bottom down here, I don't personally show my own nameplate. I don't need to see my own nameplate, that's fine. But I do like to show detailed HP and MP information. Open weapon details just means people can have a look at what skills you're running, which is fine, I don't mind that. If you want to turn this off, feel free. Target selection, you want to make sure you change this to search by order of priority and make sure attacking players is ticked at the top. And then you want hostile guild, watch guilds, feud players, and hostile players. Really good for PvP settings. You can add on attacking monsters as well. If not attacking monsters, I personally turn this off. You can just click them to target them, and then it won't change around all the time. Auto target when attacking, just prioritize with mouth cursor is fine, and prioritize nearby target and circular search by distance. Again, this is totally fine. Just leave these kind of as default. Amatoy recovery, I set this to 100%, so basically these are your world leaves. This little guy down here gives you health points back, has a 6-second cooldown, and we just have it set to start healing us straight away. And always use Amatoy recovery in PvP combat, make sure this is turned on. It is on by default, but just double check. I know a few people had it off by default when they first started playing the beta for some reason. So yeah, items I don't really touch, these are all default. Camera, make sure that your rotation sensitivity is just set to whatever you want it to be. You can invert your horizontal and vertical if you want to. Personally don't. Personally I turn shakes effect off. It does take up a little bit more resource, so you just want to turn that off if you can. Lock camera to target, lock on target is, I tried it, it didn't like it. It was just trying to be too cinematic for me, and I didn't really enjoy it. Screen settings, if you want your character a little bit off center, make things a little bit more cinematic, then yeah, have a play around with this, but personally I just leave this at 0. Content, most important one here is make sure that in large scale combat mode, you increase the max number of members displayed by astral vision. Increases it to 12, it's really good. I also turn off show other Amatoys. Amatoys are these little creatures you have that kind of just follow you around and provide you with health benefits. No idea where mine is, to be honest. He's not there for whatever reason. But yeah, for whatever reason, these little guys, and I just have I must have turned my own one off as well, which is fine. But I do have it set so that I can't see other people's Amatoys, because imagine 100 other players with 100 other little pets running around. It's going to take up a lot of resources. World map transparency when moving, that's fine, you can do that. Field transparency and dungeon transparency too. Just leave these as default. Minimap, this is the minimap here. Obviously you can change this to how detailed you want it. Personally, I'm not too bothered about being able to see all this. I just like to see the roads of where I need to go, so it doesn't get rid of any important information, but you could maybe set it to like 10% if you still want a bit of a background. It's not the worst. Again, it's not going to affect your performance too much, just that's personal preference. Again, everything else is pretty much default. Well, until we get to guided display, obviously these will be on by default, but once you get the hang of them, just feel free to turn them off. Display lock on controls, just leave that turned on, and leave the return warnings on as well. Chat, I don't touch. This is just my settings here. You can pause and have a look. Same with the UI, except I turn it to tier 1, just make it as low as possible. I like to be able to see more on the screen. I like the more minimalist, the better. But everything else, I don't really touch. There is tooltip. display down here and little things you can play around with. Again, none of these are going to affect your settings too much, but just, yeah, you can play around with these, but again, don't worry about it too much. Language obviously is just local or UTC, because I'm on a European servers. I imagine on American servers there's different lists you can have. Display the current time within the HUD, which is like down here in the bottom right if you want it. Notifications, inventory, community and content, I leave all as default. I don't touch a single thing. Nothing in here really matters, but obviously the more important thing is now the graphics. So for the graphics, I've went for a mix of quality and performance. Now obviously if you do just want the highest FPS everything, just set everything to low, but from asking a few people and playing around with different settings, this is what I found works to still give me a decent performance without sacrificing too many frames. So I do run it on full screen. Obviously you want the game is always going to be optimized the most on full screen. Obviously make sure it's set to the right monitor, make sure the correct resolution is set. Brightness, obviously that's just your own personal preference. Frame rate, I have unlimited FPS, and then vertical sync we turn off. I wouldn't personally have it on. I haven't played this game with HDR on, but I personally would just always turn it off. And also I turn off NVIDIA DLSS Super Resolution as well as the AMD equivalent of that. I was actually dropping frames when I was testing this with these on. So personally I just turn these off. Don't know if they'll fix them and make them work better in the future on live launch, but we'll see. Make sure if you do have an RTX or GTX graphics card, I think it might only be the RTX graphic cards that do this, I'm not sure, but make sure you've got NVIDIA Reflex low latency on as well. If you're really struggling with low latency, then you can put boost as well, but on is like the safe middle ground. And then quality, so this is everything you want to do to keep your game still looking nice and still run smoothly with high FPS. So anti-aliasing, we just turn that to as low as possible, but then ambient occlusion we leave at medium. Between medium and low there wasn't that much of a difference. Again, if you're running a lower end PC, maybe drop it to low. Screen space reflection, that's a mouthful. Screen space reflections and view distance we leave on low. Character count we want on Epic though, we want to be able to see as many people as possible, especially in PvP. Post-processing we leave that on medium, and the character quality we leave on high. The shading quality and the shadow quality are medium, but again, if you are struggling, these are another things I would recommend going to low, especially if you're on a lower end PC. Distance shadow quality though I just put on low, I don't really need it. Texture quality we leave on high, again that's what makes the game not look absolutely dog shit. Anisotropic filtering we leave on ×4, which is great. Effect quality we leave on low, and then vegetation quality is set to high, but again that can be on low as well if you wanted to, and you can maybe have your effect quality on medium. Again, they're not going to, vegetation might take up, it's not like New World where the vegetation takes up a lot of RAM and CPU usage, it doesn't really, so yeah. In advanced, depth of field, motion blur, chromatic aberration and lens flare, I just turn these all off. They're all just annoying things that I feel like we don't need in the game, and they just take up resources, quite a lot of resources to be fair, and we just turn them off. Level of detail we leave on high, character shadow quality set to medium, the lighting quality is just set to low. You could maybe go that to medium on that. Again, you can see the difference between it, but then between high, medium and epic it doesn't change too much. So again, that's entirely up to you. It's not going to break the bank if you do want it on medium in regards to frames. Terrain quality though, we do leave it on high. Again, we still want the game to look nice. Along with the volumetric clouds, we leave on high. Fog though, I don't know why that was on medium. I highly recommend that being on low, just due to the amount of frames this does take up for some reason, I'm not sure why. Shader preloading is how much the game preloads all the other assets in the background. You do want to set this to epic. And then one of the most important things, for some god knows why reason, Hair Strands just uses so much resources, so just turn it off. I don't know why it's there. Optimize large scale combat and use DirectX 12, obviously we do leave on though. And when it says optimize large scale combat, it actually optimizes it as well, which is really nice. Sound, I'm not going to touch anything in here, that's entirely up to you, entirely personal preference. Now onto the keybinds. Now, I pretty much set these to default and then just played around with a few, so I'm not going to run through every single one, but if you do want to copy my keybinds, what I use find works for me, what I use on Korea, what I've used in the closed beta, what I've used in the open beta, and what I'm used to. And just, if you want to follow this step for step, reset all your shortcuts tab, because when you change something in game or in the shortcut settings, it automatically applies a new shortcut to the other keybind. So if you reset them and just follow it in the order I tell you, everything will be set up correctly. So change control mode, we obviously set to like, well, equals. Again, it's a keybind that was down here. I don't want it on my keybind, and I'm never going to really touch this, and if I do want to touch it, I can just mouse over it, it's fine. And I'm never going to accidentally touch it either. These were default. The only other things we changed here, basic attack we swapped to 7, and defense skill I put as mouse button 4. I only use a mouse with 2 buttons on the side, so Mouse button 4 is my defense skill, because I like to be able to still move around when using my defense skill, so I'm not having to take my finger off either D to press Q. I can continue to move freely while using my defensive skill. So that's why that's on the mouse. Where was it? Yep, okay. Other things I've changed was stop basic attack and cancel target is, or you can just click escape to do this. I don't even know why this is a keybind. So again, just set it to auto free up that keybind from down below. Interact, skip conversation. Again, a pretty pointless keybind, because when you're actually having conversations, you can just left click to skip everything. So just click 9, change that to 9, sorry. Return is just left at B, that's fine. Astral vision based on cursor. I'm going to get into the astral vision settings in a minute, but I put this to mouse button 3. Again, I feel like this is a setting that is needed, or is more beneficial to have it on your mouse rather than a keybind. So when we're running, my astral vision is set to wherever my cursor is, and I just click on my scroll wheel to activate it, and it's fine. We're going to get into these settings in a minute, though, so don't worry about it too much. So we go to that. I'm pretty sure that was everything on this page. Astral vision based on cursor. Summon Guardian we changed to 6 as well, because again, 6 is still a decent keybind, but Guardians are on like a 5-minute cooldown, so it's not something you're going to be pressing a lot of the time. And again, clears up another keybind on the skills abilities, on the skills bar. Moving on to UI, nothing is actually changed from here. Everything is completely default. Some things might have moved out or reverted, but I don't believe they have. I feel like everything's still the same. You can add other keybinds on in here for different things within the UI, should you want it. But this is just things like map, guild, settings, stuff like that. So these are all just entirely personal preference. Moving on to the actual quick slots and stuff. You'll see here I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Q, E, R, F, X, C, V. Just a nice, simple, easy to click buttons for all my skills. Not having to stretch out, not having to take my mouse off, my hand off my movement keys to press anything. Everything's comfortable. These are a bit more personal preference, but I feel like this is a good starting point, especially if you've just followed me down from the character, because you'll have freed up some of these as well. Scroll down, everything else is pretty much default. Nothing else has changed on there. And then in the features button, pretty sure everything's defaulted there as well. So I don't change a lot around in the shortcuts. It's just a nice set of keybinds to have, I personally feel. All very close to you. No control modifiers, no shift modifiers or anything like that, just QERCV, nice and simple. Accessibility is kind of just a clump of settings we've already touched on, except for blood effects is in here, which is again personal preference, but you can turn all these on or off if you need them. Again, nothing's going to change the overall playstyle of the game. It's more just if you require any of this, then feel free to look into it. Info and privacy we don't need anyway. So moving on to the astral vision settings now. Again, astral vision could be in its whole video on its own, but essentially what astral vision does is just give you targets to apply. But if you open it up, there's only this little bar here. You don't get this first. I think it's a bit of a later level, maybe level 10. So if you're just loading into the game for the first time, you might not see this straight away, so maybe come back to the video at a later date. But just click on astral vision settings, and these are the settings you want essentially. Feuds and interests, because you're only going to use astral vision really during PvP, not really going to use it for PvE. So I only set it to hostile guilds, watch guilds, whoever I'm under attack by. Turn off monsters, have it set to redo automatically every 3 seconds, and set the range as high as possible, especially if you're a ranged player like staff, bow, something like that. Again, 3 seconds, as low as we possibly can on these. So when I click this button now, as I'm about to go into PvP, sorry, it will just auto astral. You won't see the cinematic every time, like, don't worry. But this will adjust as you run past players. So as I get closer to other people, every 3 seconds, it's going to see them people. It's going to show me who's closest. Obviously, if I was, wanted to attack them, it's a bit hard because we're not in a PvP zone to really show it off. Maybe I'll put some clips together and do a whole video on it separately. But like I said, just these are the settings to run with. And you can have different presets. So you can have a PvP preset and a PvE preset if should you really want to. But yeah, that's the settings in the video. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope this makes you feel a bit less overwhelmed with some of the settings if you've tried to have a look at them and you weren't sure on where to go with it. Throwing Liberty as much as I are in the beta testing, and I can't wait for this game to come out on launch. So I will see you there.